Welcome to the Real Talk with C&H, episode 9. Today's conversation is a very powerful one, and today's topic, you're going to enjoy it. And at this particular time, I'll introduce myself. My name is Cyprian Gatongo Jr. And as a tradition on this podcast, I'm going to allow my co-host now to introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hussein Dodia, and I'm the co-host of Real Talk with CNH. And our topic today will be navigating leadership policies. I know from the last conversation we had, under the same topic, we had said laws and policies, right, Mr. Katongo?
Yes, very powerfully.
But I don't think we had discussed the policies aspect. So under this topic, we'll be discussing policies, and I'll let my co-host venture on and ask me the very critical questions.
As usual. Today's topic, my co-host has mentioned, Sadodia, looking at navigating leadership, and also the main focus today it being policies. And I'll allow my co-host and my brother from another mother, to just offload the details, what we're going to look at.
Definitely. Thank you, Mr. Katongo. Basically, we're looking at policies, as we've mentioned before. And policies are basically just regulations and procedures that strengthen the law. They do not require any form of parliamentary act, and they can be enacted by any institution or government body or company to strengthen regulation within their systems. Thank you.
So now, to kickstart the conversation, I think we're going to look at the first. We're going to have subheadings. I think we're going to have want to look at rather, the financial. Let's look at the financial, Mr. Dodia. Financial policies in Zambia. Briefly, enter that, brother.
Thank you very much, Mr. Katongo. Basically, we have the financial monetary policy, which we refer to as the MPR rate. For those of us Zambians who are not familiar with that, it's basically a rate that is determined by the Bank of Zambia to control the quantity, the cost of money, and basically the amount of money in circulation. So the MPR is adjusted by the Bank of Zambia accordingly to control the cost of funds and the quantity of money circulating within the economy, maybe to balance out exchange rates or to increase a trade balance.
Very powerful, breakdown of the financial policy. Like I said, we're looking at subheadings, and he has powerfully outlined that. I want to pose a question to my brother here, Mr. Dodia. Recently, government has introduced, the new currencies. I want to get your views, Mr. Dodia. How is this new currency, going to help with the economy of the country?
Well, that's a very important question, actually. My feeling is that the new currencies are a great way to introduce a different set of currency in the country, but it must come with productivity. So when you introduce a new currency, especially in higher denominations, in a usual setting, it sets off alarm bells because people begin to expect inflationary pressure that tends to come with higher denominated notes. I could be wrong, however, but if those new currencies fall in line with production in our economy, if we can start industrializing and producing Zambian-based goods and start exporting and start growing our economy, then the new currency shouldn't affect us too much. However, on the other end of the spectrum, if we have introduced a new currency and our economy is not productive, it is not producing anything, we still have constant load shedding, which we have been talking about time after time, and the economy is not producing any sort of output, then it becomes inflationary, and then prices of goods and services start rising, and everything becomes expensive. So then that's when the change in currency starts to reflect the higher cost of consumer goods.
Powerful stuff, because it's important also to give context, because if we're looking at the financial policy, just in general, it was very important also to bring that aspect of the new currency, as my
Definitely.
brother Mr. Dodgy has powerfully given. There's pros and cons of the new currency, but at the end of the day, we need to see eventually how this currency is going to mediate. Sometimes you need to understand so just on boss. Bus or boat. Bus there just a boat. So away from that, Mr. Hussein has given a very powerful breakdown of how the new currency is at now. But again, the key question which many people have is, how is this currencies, how influential, so to say, is it going to be when it comes to economical growth? Because we have seen the many bigger notes which have been introduced, but at the end of the day, I think it's too early to to judge the value of these new currencies.
No, for sure.
But with due time, we'll have to wait and see how this new currency is going to benefit the economy of the country, which is Zambia.
I would say give it maybe a year or two.
Yeah, in that sense. Having said that, I think we can move on to the development policy, and there my brother every time powerfully outlining points which are there every time. I'll give my brother to briefly just attack on the development policy as at now.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Kandogo, for bringing up this one, because this is one of my favorite policy, the National Decentralization Policy. This one is meant to basically ensure that resources and funds are equally distributed or accordingly distributed to all parts of the country. I like this policy because it shows that we're forward thinking. It has a developmental agenda. It's focused. It's driven on building up the different provinces, the constituencies. It has a ripple effect from the top to bottom. If the policy is enforced in the right manner, then it will definitely provide a substantial line for Zambia's growth and development. My key issue with this policy is that it's not fully addressed. It's not fully brought into context for Zambians to take full participation in it. I like the policy. I like the strength that it has. I like the fact that it was brought up in 2013 and then reviewed again in 2019, 2020, I'm not sure, somewhere between there, yeah. And so it shows that we have a developmental agenda, but the policy is not enforced. And I think that's the issue we have with the National Decentralization Policy. There's talk about decentralization of resources. We've heard it from even previous governments that no resources will go to the different provinces. There'll be development ministers will stay in those provinces, PSs will govern in those provinces. But the truth is that has never truly taken effect. And that has been the major downfall of the National Decentralization Policy.
Let me also bring back my brother right now, Mr. Dodia, because he's holding the floor right now. His powerful points are always, appreciated. I want to get your views, my brother. When it comes to CDF, which is constituency development funds, because at the end of the day, not even stems from, it goes back to, goes down rather, to that. Your take, as the constituencies, have they utilized CDF in terms of making the communities from the ground level. Your take on that?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, from the reports that we've seen so far and from what has been happening, we can safely say that CDF is not being utilized in the correct manner. There might be 1 or 2 or 3 provinces that have successfully utilized CDF, but on average, in totality, CDF is not being utilized to the most effective manner. And there's still a lot of corrupt practices that we know that is happening within these institutions.
Thank you very much, because it was very important to break down, for you listeners out there, to understand that CDF, which is very common, which many understand and are aware of, that it's important also to bring that in focus, in that it's important also for people to know also the challenges and to break down the challenges. From my research, what I've noticed is that the issues of CDF in terms of being utilized in a case study of Lusaka, so to say. I don't know why this issue of having the same ideas, utilizing CDF, you find that a certain constituency has a plan of building roads,
Yes.
and then you find that another constituency, which is next to them, has the same idea. Then you find that everyone has bought machinery, but they're not doing the actual work, because the idea is mixed in the same way. It becomes just the same thing. So to just add on to my brother's point, I think CDF not being utilized based on the reports which we have been getting, I think there's need for ward councillors to make a deliberate measure, so to say, that they should educate the constituents that what you need to do if you receive CDF, focus on projects which will benefit the community. Don't focus on what another ward is doing.
True.
Because at the end of the day, you find yourselves in a position whereby you receive the money, but you're doing the same thing.
Yes.
So that trend of copying each other shouldn't be involved in community development projects. So I think I will urge the ward councillors, as of now, to refrain from also being too reluctant in terms of them just seeing how someone has applied for a machinery which is going to make roads. They should refrain from being that, no, it's just savings.
Yes.
They should refrain from that. They should focus on making sure that if CDF comes in, they should tackle issues which are being affecting people rather, in certain communities. They shouldn't have the same concept of addressing problems. You cannot focus on roads when in a ward arrangement, ward scenario, so to say, a clinic, for example,
Is more needed.
is more needed.
Yeah.
Build a clinic in that arrangement. You shouldn't have people whereby they're referred to, leaving on hours.
Yes.
You shouldn't have that situation. Within the clinic, if the issues which are easily addressed, create measures whereby within their communities, those people can be addressed and can be given medication, because we have many health workers,
Yes.
but they don't have posts
Very true.
to work with in the context of Lusaka. Having said that, it was very important not to give passion to this
No.
topic at hand. Moving forward, let's also tackle on the social welfare policy, because we're looking at the sub-headings and then headings rather. Then my brother, the powerful brother of mine, Mr. Dodia, is going to break down the social welfare policy we're looking at. Over to you, Mr. Dodia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kotongo, and thank you for breaking down the issue regarding constituencies and wards and CDF, because I think also the national decentralization policy plays a lot into that, and it's important for all these individuals, especially these heads and leaders of different vicinities and different areas, to be conversant. following up, in terms of welfare and child welfare specifically, we have the National Child Policy. So the National Child Policy basically focuses on dealing with children that are either out on the street, that are destitute, that are prone to abuse, to trauma and other forms of neglect. And this policy ensures that these children are protected. I think it's important that when we're looking at this policy that we can look at our current situation that we're facing today. We're having all these issues, as we know, of children being defiled and young girls being raped. And I think it's very important that this is a policy that we should get going and get moving on, because it's very important that the children are protected. The children are our future, and they are the ones that are going to shape the Zambia of tomorrow. So the National Child Policy is very essential to keep us, to keep the economy thriving, to keep it growing, to keep it healthy, and to keep it sustainable, most importantly. Thank you.
Just picking up on just there, I think it's important also to bring in this aspect of the cases Mr. Dodja mentioned, to say the increase of, rather the rapid increase of defilement cases. I think this is a very worrying issue, and also it's important that all government authorities, because at the end of the day, government is for the people, for the people by the people. Is it government for
the people by the people?
Yes,
exactly.
So government which is in power now is not a silencer. We should remove ourselves from thinking that because certain parties in power, that certain issues when it comes to social issues that should be limited to
talked about.
That's what I'm about to add on to the passion I have. So now, coming back to the point I was arriving at, when it comes to defilement cases, I think it's important that government should remove themselves from using a political approach when it comes to social issues, which is a true story. Because at the end of the day, when you break down these cases of defilement, you find that the stories behind these so-called defilements, you find that the reasons which those people, the perpetrators,
what they do,
have been doing. There's the issue of they'll be healed from diseases.
True.
They're going to gain wealth. So it's important that this social welfare, in line with what my brother, alluded to in that policy for children, they should make it a must that they should go into the communities, educate, and then at the same time get rid of these so-called doctors.
Witch doctors.
Witch
doctors. That's what
doctors.
they are. That's exactly what they are. They are witch doctors.
Witch doctors. And then they also venture into churches, which is very, shocking to my liking. It's very shocking that someone is a part-time witch doctor, part-time prophet. How? How can you manipulate people in that way? But I digress from that. So it's important that the government of today should refrain itself also from just being too political. Get into what's happening on the ground.
The real issues. Yeah.
The real issues on the ground. And the social welfare in the aspect of defilement. Understand what's happening. Who are influencing these people to engage in these crimes. Understand. Get rid of those people. If at all, those buildings which they are making, so-called churches, make them into our own rehabilitation centers. I'll put it in the context of making them job creation centers, whereby set up a factory. Because mainly what I've noticed from my research is that these people, who are talking about, these people are talking about, they're mainly found in compounds. They're never found in urban areas,
Okay.
which is a true story. And if you want to make a factory in a, for lack of a better term, in a compound, you make a factory, so to say. People get employed. They will not have time to listen to that person who's talking about, no, if you sleep with your daughter, you sleep with your niece who's below a certain age, you're going to get healed the disease you have that your wife will never discover. You have swende, gonorrhea, whatever you call it. If you have a deliberate, measure so that you can put in place so that people are employed. Once people are employed, and then they are able to generate income in these communities, because these people do double. They do witchcraft, witch doctoring, and then also they also do churches in the same communities. So you can imagine whereby they're abusing people's minds. So if you, at the end of the day, if you have a measure which can be put in place to make those people understand that we need more factories or job creation centers whereby people can be employed. Their minds are busy. They cannot entertain someone who's lying to them to say, if you sleep with a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old, you're going to get rich. Your disease is going to go away. HIV will go away. How can HIV go away after sleeping with a 9-year-old? So having said that, let's move on to now another policy now, which is energy with the AD now. Over to you, Mr. Doji.
Thank you very much, Mr. Katongo. We'll be looking now at the National Energy Policy, or NEP, and this was drafted in 2019 to focus on sustainable energy in Zambia and how we can create a sustainable solution to our energy problems and load shedding. This policy will be reinforced with the establishment of the Zambia-Tanzania interconnector that we've just recently heard about, and that's been in the pipeline. So yeah, in terms of energy, this policy is meant to reinforce the energy sector and provide us, like I said, with sustainable, clean, and hopefully renewable energy, which can provide Zambia for now and for hundreds of years to come.
Having looked at that policy, which my brother has powerfully, established and also given context, I think it's important also to appreciate that it's important also to look at those issues in that people need to get involved and also know what's happening in their nation. In manners, not knowing what's happening in the nation, trust me, becomes now that arrangement whereby people won't know what's happening. If they don't know, they are easily misled.
Yes.
And in the context of energy with also social media misleading people, you find that someone has given a wrong information on social media, and then people, manners not knowing the context which Mr. Doji has powerfully, given, it should be a stepping stone for other people, our listeners, not to also give themselves that mindset to say, let me research more, let me know more. Because at the end of the day, if you know more, you won't be lied, you won't be misled. With the context of social media, we have seen that many people tend to lie about energy
Issues.
sector.
Yes, true.
So it's important that people have the open mind based on what Mr. Dodia gave. And moving forward, he has powerfully, outlined. And for me to be not done is a sin. It's a sin. For me to be not done is a sin right now.
I would like to add on something.
Feel free, brother.
In terms of energy, we are making leaps and bounds, especially as Mr. Katongo has said, in social media and in artificial intelligence and in terms of general knowledge sharing. I remember the other day I shared with you something on nuclear energy that our neighbor Namibia wants to start doing, which is going to be a $5-6 billion project. And that's huge for Africa, especially for Southern Africa. So these are countries that we can learn from, even while trying to understand our own policy, trying to implement our own strategies, our own procedures. I think it will be quite interesting in the next 5 to 10 years, 20 years, what we're going to come up in terms of energy. Thank you.
Having said that, I think let's move on to final, policy, which is very powerful. I allow my, my co-host, my brother, another mother, to introduce the subheading of the policy, which we're going to look at the last policy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Katongo. The final policy we'll be looking at is National Housing and Development Policy, which comes down to now our favorite level, isn't it? Local government and community level. So basically, this policy ensures that all our citizens, all our people are placed in areas in which location-wise they are safe, there's security, they're not near areas that contains a lot of waste, they're not near hazardous materials where children can get infected or affected. Basically, this policy looks at the safety and well-being of our living conditions and standards of living, and planning, isn't it? We would say planning, on how we plan our national housing and settlements. Yes, exactly.
Based on that, what I've discovered also, I think the council should also, Lusaka City Council, in the context of Lusaka right now, also can be adopted by other cities around the country. I think they should make this deliberate, like I use this word. So a deliberate, measure in the sense that they should look into not giving people just anyhow housing, because at the end of the day, what Mr. Dodja mentioned, there's an issue of making sure that environments are clean.
Yeah.
You cannot allow anyone to settle anywhere where you find situations whereby someone has built a house under a septic tank, or under a water management system. So we find the situation whereby even fire, what do you call these people? Zambia, fire brigade people. Yeah, they fail to even tap into water because structures have been built on top of issues. So it's important that planning when it comes to settlements is taken care of, so that people know where to settle. In as much as we know the country is expanding, but again, the scale we should be given in terms of where to allocate people, to build their houses. If you know that this certain area should be reserved for water, for fire brigade to come in, if this area is a source of garbage collection, don't allow people to build houses in there. At the end of the day, we're looking at health for the masses, and also children, because children in that position, a lot of things children love to play around.
For sure.
Now, if you don't create an environment for children, our future leaders, they're getting sick, they die because of lack of planning. So under this policy, like Mr. Dodja has powerfully mentioned, that this policy is very important. And to break it down also further, it's important that every person in the council which is involved in allocating plots for everyone, you should factor in those issues. Don't allow people to build on top of water systems. Don't allow people where garbage collection are there. So you can even imagine a prime example. Someone has decided to disturb the podcast, who's doing this work at the wrong day, but it's part of life. So based on moving forward, so you can understand the importance of planning, because planning at the end of it is very important. You look at all those factors. You don't have diseases which are spreading if you plan well in the community. Flooding also, drainage systems.
Mhm.
If you plan well, you have drainage systems which are powerfully set up, you will never experience flooding. So the issues of like Mr. Dodja, my brother, every time he always steps in when he sees his brother, trying to find a way, he's looking for it with a passion.
Definitely.
So based on that, you can even understand that it's important that people appreciate the need for planning. And this is a powerful request from those people who are in offices of planning in terms of Lusaka and other provinces in Zambia, that they should factor in issues of don't get carried away of just people giving you money that you should allocate them land they build. Allocate also issues of planning of the city, like Mr. Dodja has said, to avoid also diseases being spread, and also flooding, because flooding at the end of the day stems from lack of planning. Because if you don't plan, eventually you're going to experience that flooding.
Sure.
Having said that, I think I'll hand over to my brother right now, because I'm very passionate about this issue.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Katongo. And thank you for finalizing that issue for us, because I think it was very important that we talk about national housing and planning. These are issues that have been affecting us for quite a long time. We know that especially when the rainy season comes, we have floodings and outbreaks and pandemics that tend to arrive with the rains. So I think this is a thing that has been long overdue and that we should start dealing with, or should have dealt with a long time ago. But anyway, there are policies. The main point is that there are policies to deal with these things. There are ways to be dealt with. There's regulations that have been put in place, which means that they have been noticed and they are being talked about. But what's important is action. The most important thing is not just writing down things on paper, because everyone can write something down on paper. What is important is implementing. And this is where we need our leaders to come in to enforce these policies. And so just to wrap it up, I just wanted to compare laws with policies so that the people out there can get a better understanding. Laws are passed through acts of parliament, right? They go through MPs, members, they vote on them, and from a bill, it becomes a law. Policies are there to reinforce the laws, okay? So they don't need to go through all these lengthy procedures. They can be implemented at a national, at a company, even at community level, to strengthen community ties, to strengthen community planning, to strengthen community development, to strengthen community energy projects, to strengthen community child protection, which was the other one we talked about, to strengthen, to strengthen monetary policy, to strengthen decentralization efforts. So these policies are there to strengthen the laws that are already in existence. But what is important is how we enforce them. Another thing I would like to talk about just as we wrap up is statutory instruments. Now, statutory instruments are another tool, like policies, like laws, that can help in regulating certain aspects of an economy. And these statutory instruments are created by law, but the difference is that they can be enacted for a specific period of time. So let's say, for example, during the rainy season, when we have flooding and these issues, we can have a statutory instrument that now brings in efforts from institutions and parastatals and state institutions to help with garbage collection and forming of drainages and issues like that. So there are so many tools that we can use at a government and national level to help foster development and growth. Thank you very much.
Having said that, the brother of mine has a problem. He has this tendency of powerfully outlining points whereby his brother has nowhere to step in. but based on what my brother has mentioned, it's important that we also look at it's a call for action also for the you listeners also to focus on you learning more. Our podcast, the Real Talk with C&H is based on real talk and real growth. At the end of the day, what we focus on is you being given that synopsis of every topic we talk about. You have the obligation also to learn more. We make you to understand certain things, but also go beyond, learn more. At the end of the day, this information, at the end of the day, should be put into action. So you need to put leaders who are in power to task. Certain issues need to be addressed. So my brother from another mother, Mr. Dodja, he always powerfully outlines these points. And having said that, this has been a very powerful discussion where we are looking at navigating leadership, and also our focus today was based on policies, and I think we have powerfully explained and also given context to why we love this topic. Having said that, looking forward to having you back listening to us. And this has been the Real Talk with C&H, and I've been your co-host, Cyprian Katongo, and he's giving me a shout out right now to say, I'll say his name, Hussein Dodja, my brother from another mother. Join us next week for another powerful conversation.